Air mobile operations are commonplace in the war in Vietnam. Helicopters used as transports, carrying men, weapons, and materiel, soaring easily over terrain obstacles that would have immobilized ground vehicles. Helicopters bombarding the enemy with rockets. Spraying him with high-volume automatic weapons fire. Helicopters as aerial cavalry, swooping down from the skies to achieve the classic effects of speed and shock action, but with immensely more firepower than ground cavalry. Only a few short years ago, air mobile operations was just an experimental doctrine, a concept never tested under actual battle conditions. It was only fitting and proper that air mobile operations should have been first tried in combat by the 1st Cavalry Division of World War II and Korea fame. Riding helicopters instead of horses or mechanized vehicles, it was renamed the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile. The air mobile concept of using organic Army aircraft to perform the combat functions of wheeled and tracked vehicles was carefully developed and tested in 2.5 years of intensive effort at the Army's Great Infantry Training Center, Fort Benning, Georgia. These revolutionary innovations were tried out by an experimental organization known as the 11th Air Assault Division. Its trained cadres and tested equipment provided a major component of the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile when it was activated July 1st, 1965. Shortly afterward, it received orders to move from Fort Benning to South Vietnam. Its mission, to set up an air mobile base in the central highlands of Vietnam. Into this wild, rugged environment, wholly favorable to a wily enemy skilled in guerrilla warfare, the Sky Cavalry launched its first air assaults in September and October of 1965. Though limited in scope, these engagements with the enemy were supplemented by aerial rocket artillery, as well as high-volume machine gun fire. Reconnaissance by fire gained in effectiveness. When door gunners swept suspected areas of concealment with machine gun bursts, the enemy was provoked into shooting back, thus revealing his presence and location. Air cavalry squadrons promptly searched large areas west of Plaimé, seeking out communist forces concealed in the lush foliage below. Helicopters swooped down to skim the ground at low level, sweeping the landscape with reconnaissance by fire to provoke the enemy into revealing himself. Next, infantry battalions were air assaulted deep into North Vietnamese strongholds. The rifle companies were dispersed over several landing zones. Each company set out patrols to search aggressively for the enemy. On November 1st, 1965, the Sky Troopers hit pay dirt. And aerial rocket artillery, the troopers chopped up the NVA 33rd Regiment that had besieged Plaimé. Blasted by aerial rockets, seared with fiery strikes by U.S. Air Force fighter bombers, the NVA was drenched in a rain of fires that decimated his attacking forces. The Sky Troopers had to pay a price, but they had turned the communist plan into a disastrous nightmare. The enemy losses in dead and wounded were tremendous. Strong air mobile forces carried out a lightning series of forays against the Viet Cong, who held over 140,000 people in subjection. Each operation was carried out with polished efficiency, using tactics now thoroughly tested in battle. Gunships darting in to strafe the landing zone perimeter with rocket fire. Automatic weapons. Infantry assault waves rushing from troop carriers to set up a defense line on the LZ perimeter, while succeeding waves of riflemen advanced through them. Beginning with an airlift into the Anlao Valley, the troopers pushed through all kinds of terrain in their pursuit of the enemy. This cleanup operation was pursued vigorously into the summer of 1968, when Quezon, having outlived its strategic usefulness, was closed down. The pressure on the enemy never relented as the choppers took to the air day and night, in foul weather as well as fair. Nowhere in this wild, trackless country was the Viet Cong safe from air-mobile probes. They were pursued deep into the jungle, sought out high on mountaintops. They were challenged in their most distant hideouts. It made no difference that the first Cav men who had come to Vietnam in 1965, the original first team, had all been rotated home. It was a completely fresh division now, but it was still very much the first team. Support other units of the Allied forces in combined operations. Supremely confident in its brilliant battle record and the success of its air-mobile doctrine, now accepted throughout the United States Army, the 1st Cav continues to serve far from home as long as needed. In these advances, the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile will, as always, lead the way.